understanding. We, thine unworthy servants, here gathered together in thy name, do most humbly beseech thee to send down thy heavenly wisdom from above to direct and guide us in all our consultations. And grant that, we having thy fear always before our eyes, and laying aside all private interest, prejudices, and partial affections, the result of all our counsels may be to the glory of thy blessed name, the maintenance of true religion and justice, the safety, honor, and happiness of the Queen, the public weal, peace and tranquility of the island, and the uniting and knitting together of the hearts of all persons and estates within the same, in true Christian love and charity, one towards another, through Jesus Christ our Lord. Amen.
Can't forge it. This Honourable Senate now resumes its sittings, and we have a group visiting us today, and their teachers, so we want to welcome you. What's the name of the school? St. Mary High, all the way from St. Mary High. That senator who is beating the desk is most, see him stand up here, that's Senator Floyd Morris. He is from your parish. And your school, okay. But it looked like a girls' school. No, boys up there. And welcome to your parliament. This is not the first time you have visited us, so you're always welcome here. Trust that you enjoy your morning. We're dealing with the Road Traffic Act this morning, so you can hear a part of that debate. Remember that at any time you're always welcome here. It's your parliament, and come and spend the day with us. Special welcome to your teachers who have obviously taken the time and the effort to encourage you all to come here. So welcome. And remember, you're always welcome here. Thank you very much for coming. And if when you leave, safe drive home. Statements by ministers, announcements.
Laid on the table of the Senate today are the following: Minister Paper number 38, an annual report on audited financial statements of the Sugar Industry Authority. Minister Paper number 39, entitled Instruments Adopted at the Annual Labour Conference of the International Labour Organization for the year 2017.
Bills brought from the Honourable House of Representatives, petitions, papers, reports from committees, notices of motions given orally, questions and answers to questions.
Mr. President, there has been some indication that some of the answers to the questions standing in my name is available. If it is, I'd appreciate getting the part answers if they are here now.
Thank you, Senator Brown. Senator Reid.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. Consistent with our commitments, I have some answers to present this morning. We're making some copies. If you want me to delay until the copies are available, fine. Okay. Okay.
You
So
can
we'll proceed.
Can recommit it at a later point. It can be recommitted.
Mr. President, I move for the item to be suspended until a further time in the sitting.
The question is that the item, questions and answers to questions, be recommitted at some further point. In favor? Motions that may be made at the commencement of public business requiring notice. Motions relating to the sitting of the Senate. Motions for leave to introduce bills. The presentation of bills without the leave of the Senate first obtained. Public business. Minister.
Mr. President, it is intended today to continue the debate on the road traffic bill. As members will recall, I opened at this sitting last Friday, and it would therefore stand to the opposition to speak next.
Thank you, Minister. Senator Slowly.
Mr. President, good morning. With your leave, I would like to make a contribution to the bill entitled the Road Traffic Act 2018. Colleagues senators, it's a wonderful spring morning. Gives us hope. Here we are, blessed with the next generation. I will ensure that they all behave. Thank you. Although long awaited, this bill can have a real impact on all our lives, especially road users. Mr. President, Hansard will show that I made a contribution to a similar bill when it was tabled in the Senate in 2016. It has now returned record time, 2.5 years later, from the lower house with about 100 amendments and additional amendments which have been tabled here. If this bill can succeed in creating positive change on our driving habits and assist in restoring good order and civility on our roads, if it can reduce the carnage from the numerous accidents and injury, especially to our school children, if it can reduce the enormous cost of injury to the people and property, then it must have my full support. Mr. President, I need to record that for me to get here, I have to drive on a stretch of road which must be categorized as the most dangerous in Jamaica. It's a strip of road from the Montego Bay Airport through to Falmouth. It is where everybody comes to challenge Hamilton, F1 driver, with speed, without possessing any of the skills. It is rarely policed. I then get Senator Sinclair to the beautiful, well-designed north South Highway. well posted, maximum 80 kilometers. Always policed. Very little traffic. Could I ask the government to transfer those police onto the heavily trafficked, most dangerous piece of road in Jamaica? It just makes common sense. Orderly, you bring me some water. Mr. President, with your leave, I would like to salute the police and soldiers who have intervened in Westmoreland. I'm from Westmoreland. I'm from Westmoreland. Now, we people in Westmoreland, Mr. President, unlike you city people, we're humble people, and we are used to sleeping with our windows open.
Long time.
A tradition, long, long time. We no longer can do it. We no longer can do it. I'm going to share a story with you. I have family in Westmoreland. So they sent me a message that they needed help with security. If I could get them a night watchman. So I had to tell them, explain to them, the days of night watchman is over. They now call them security guards. So yes, I'll get you a security guard. A couple of weeks go by, another message. All of the fruit and everything on the property, people picking it off, so they now need a ranger. You wouldn't know what a ranger is, Mr. President, because you're from city. You have a ranger, so I say. To me now, it started this thing of no new tax, because every time they call, it seems like was another tax on me. They want a ranger. So I get them a ranger. A couple of weeks later.
Would you just explain to Mr. Samuda the difference between a ranger and a security guard? Because I know what it is.
I will do that in time. Let me get to the end of this story. So I got them a ranger, and I think now everything is fine until there's another request. The ranger is saying that he can manage the property by himself, because the people who are picking all have gone, so I must now get him gone. Take a drive, go up, Senator Sinclair, and try to explain, Senator Charles, that I can't get him a gun. Mr. President, my reputation, my credibility is shot, because he goes through the entire village and tell the people him can't understand what type of a politician I am, that I can't get him a gun. This is what you have now brought me to. But let me move on. I'm just telling you something personal about my life. the Honourable Minister, Leader, Government Business, in her excellent opening presentation, did state that there's no single database that can tell us how many motor vehicles are registered in Jamaica. I did my own research, and the Economic and Social Survey 2016, because 2017 is not yet published, they're having a problem just getting some of this information. They're indicating 414,000 vehicles that were examined, but that doesn't mean that that is the count in Jamaica, and that they issued certificates for 351,000. The Insurance Association of Jamaica just made a release, and they are claiming 750,000. So we have a wide disparity in terms of numbers. So I can't tell you about Jamaica, but we will get there. Now, what I can tell you is that both surveys indicate that somewhere between 30 to 50% of these motor vehicles are not insured. They have no insurance. And the remainder are underinsured. The minister pointed out sections of the current act, the one we're replacing, dealing with public passenger motor vehicle, is to be put into a new act. I urge that we get that one in here as quickly as possible. There's one thing I'd like to point out, though, that can't wait on a new act. I'm not sure how many of you are aware. Public passenger vehicle, assuming it is insured, the same policy governs your PPV if you're carrying 3 or 4-seater, to the 30-seater coaster, to the 50-seater big bus. It's the same level of coverage for personal injury. So if the personal injury coverage is 2 million, it can go for 3 people, for 10 people, for 30 people, or 50 people. We need to fix that quick. Now, I know there's the argument that the owner can't afford it. We'll soon find out he won't be able to not afford it. That's where we're heading. Possibly one of the most important features of this new bill is the empowerment of the Island Traffic Authority to administer very complex set of rules governing licensing and the control of traffic on our road, and the issuing of all categories of driver's license. Many years ago, I was visiting Ireland, and I picked up their morning newspaper, and Ireland was in a crisis. They had a waiting list of over 30,000 for driver's license. And Parliament was meeting about it with different ways to try and speed up the process. And I reflected maybe we should send them some of our people from our licensing authority, because we have never had a driver's license waiting list as long as I can remember. It's a skill maybe we should export, if it is an acceptable export. However, to be truly effective, the Island Traffic Authority must be provided with designated funding, sufficient to undertake the multiple tasks involved in implementing its mandate. It will necessitate engaging a cadre of professionals with multiple skills to develop efficient, professional, and highly motivated road traffic management team. They must not be frustrated in their mandate. This attempt to introduce modern road traffic rules with an appropriate oversight and long-term planning to deal with congested roads, bad driving habits, and to implement changes to our very congested city centers. The change will come from successful implementation that will be effected by the ITA if it is allowed to be effective by it receiving the funding. Let me deal with an overview of what happens worldwide. In 2009, the amount of vehicles on the roads topped 1 billion. Since then, it has grown by over a third. Annual sales in 2017 for passenger cars and trucks globally passed 90 million for the first time, indicating that although there are changes, demand for the conventional motor vehicle is still there. The World Health Organization report states that as roads become more congested, they're also getting deadlier. Globally, more than 1.25 million people die each year because of road traffic crashes, with more than 90% of these fatalities occurring in low and middle-income countries like Jamaica, where sophisticated safety gear, police enforcement is not readily available. Let's use India and the USA as two examples to put this in perspective. 400 people are killed in road accidents each day in India. 400 are killed each day in India. Versus 100 in the United States of America. The US has 263 million motor cars, whereas India has 210. So it's about driving habits, road conditions, safety gear, education, policing. The auto industry growth poses challenges for regulators already struggling to make increasingly congested roads safer and cleaner. The new initiative by car companies and the tech giants evolving into autonomous, self-driving cars, electric vehicles, and sharing services is a way to reduce both emissions and traffic deaths. It is something we can't ignore. Modern motor vehicles are now coming with passenger restraint systems, pre-collision warning, pre-pedestrian warning, automatic braking, and lane changing warning. But this is a very recent and novel occasion. A country like this who invest in importing in old discarded motor vehicles from other countries are going to be a long way off before these things can be used here effectively. Interestingly, Mr. President, it is being postulated that starting within the developed societies, major change to motor car ownership and transportation being driven by the introduction of technology with self-driving cars is going to change how people look at a motor vehicle. By 2025, more than half of today's car owners will no longer want to own a car. They will summon, by an app on their phone, the car of their choice to take them to the destination of their choice. It's called the Uber effect. But more, even those who have a car will summon the car to come and pick them up. That's a self-driving car. Currently, privately owned cars are parked an average of 95% of the time. An enormous waste of capital tied up. In fact, there's hardly ever more than a quarter of the privately owned cars being driven at the same time, even at peak hours. So in the longer term, we will see a drastic decline in the number of passenger cars and a less dramatic fall in world demand for oil, which goes to fuel most of these cars. We may also expect to see a decrease in the number of deaths and injuries in traffic accidents. Mr. President, in the last 2 years, we have had 2 traffic ticket amnesties. I'm not here to quarrel about that. And Madam Leader, Minister, please don't take this that I am saying it's not there. I just want to be sure. That the legislation that we currently have will ensure that we never go back to where we ourselves are embarrassed that we have legislation which is so ineffective that somebody can run up 10 tickets, 20 tickets, 100 tickets, or 1,000 tickets, and they are still allowed on our roads. I had no answer to it when members of my family asked me, how come? It is embarrassing. I want to make sure. My question to the leader of government business, have we in this bill the legislation, the right legislation to ensure an effective ticketing system wherein offenders will have to pay the fine or face the consequences? There is no escape. I just want to pose it. Are we sure of this bill? And let's deal just for 30 seconds with the amnesty. And let me apologize to all those traffic cops out there who handed out those tickets, who diligently did their work, to find out that the same driver would pass him the next day, throw the ticket at him and say, you keep it because nothing is going to happen about this. And then now we blame the police. We want them to go back and do more of the same. Total rubbish. I want to make sure also that if we get the legislation right, that we also, within the agency, correct whatever deficiency may be there in the implementation to ensure that the ticket system works. If there are administrative fixes that are necessary, can we get the assurance of the executive that these will be identified and dealt with urgently? And I want to share, Mr. President, I want to share what a ticketing system should be. To the leader here and leader over there and the president. I was in northern Florida some years ago. And I was late for Orlando Airport. I was speeding. I passed every motor vehicle that was in front of me. And I found myself alone, nothing back, nothing front. And then this guy, all hat, all boots, belt and gun, came out and stopped me. State trooper. Gave him my license. So you see, I'm a Jamaican. I'm heading for the airport. You really don't have to write up the ticket because I'm not coming back. He just kept on writing. He just kept on writing. He then handed me the ticket and he says to me, I have a responsibility to explain to you what the ticket means. He says, you are doing X amount over, it's in a work zone. The fine is doubled. You now owe $360. He says, you have 30 days in which to pay it. He says, now at the airport, you can actually find a facility that you can pay it. Okay? He said, however, let's deal with down the road. And he explained the other things, how you pay it. He then said to me, you can elect to contest it in court. However, in order to do that, you have got to go either to an attorney or you go to the courthouse, and there's a form. You fill out the form electing to contest it. So there is a record. I'm not going to pay the fine, and you get a court date. I want to make sure that we're closing that loophole for a man here who gets a ticket, doesn't pay. How do we find him? Do we now have to get the police to go and chase him and another summons? No, we must have a simple system. He then went on to tell me that if you don't pay it, your name is in the system, it's in the database. So if you ever return and you have another infringement and we catch up with you, it's straight to jail. Straight to jail. Good if you speak more about it, because we need the public to know. If I don't know, they won't know. That's right. If none of the above, it is sent to a collection agency. So it's not a matter now you can get away. It's sent to a collection agency. And it is reported to the credit bureau. So it impacts your credit rating. So he explained it to me. He says, you may not be returning, but you may want to do business here. It's going to impact your credit rating. I paid the ticket and we moved on, eh? Yeah, paid it at the airport, made sure. Made sure. So, no. All right. I want to make sure we are at least at this standard.
Senator, slowly, your time is up, believe it or not. As a matter of interest, I hope you didn't pay the fine because I'm giving you the fine for parking, not speeding.
That's another one.
Oh, this is a different one.
Mr. President, without commenting on the number of the members driving infractions and their nature, the speaker's time having expired, is there a...
No, 5 minutes.
You have an estimated time?
About the same that Minister Reid gets. Because Senator Slowly does not often share his wisdom with us. We will allow him sufficient time. I will ask you, sir. But this I'm asking because there are a fair number of persons who wish to speak. Just note that it's being extended to Senator Slowly. Thank you.
But this speech is being presented in such dulcet and interesting tones that we have to... The question is that the Speaker be allowed time to complete his contribution. In favor? Against? Senator Slowly.
Madam Leader, I'm so grateful unto you, Senators. Thank you. The next thing I'd like to spend a couple of minutes on is the increase in the fines as outlined in the bill. And I see I have a note here, no new taxes. No new taxes. Whether we're dealing, though, with taxes or fees or fines, they result in a transfer from my pocket to the government. Increase in fines, transfer into increase in revenue to the government. So we can't be now saying no new taxes. Some people are actually saying it is one of your new revenue measures. But let me declare, just hold on. Let me declare, traffic fines must be punitive. to be effective, traffic fines must be punitive. Secondly, it is only levied when you do something wrong. Okay? Okay. So, because somebody said it, I'm not going, I'm just telling you what other people saying. I just told you about my credibility with the gun. Right. The ranger don't think I'm a good politician. Right. Yes, so fines must be punitive. They have to be high. What actually happens? What actually happens in some small cities within the U.S., and certainly now in the United Kingdom, traffic fines and parking is becoming a major or a significant revenue source for these communities. The citizens have rebelled about their land taxes going up and local taxes, so the municipalities have to find different ways. The United Kingdom have many examples of public-private partnerships on a revenue share basis, utilizing cameras for speeding tickets and GPS tied to cameras for illegal parking. This can be aggressively efficient because, Mr. President, there are some small communities, you pull off the highway to read a map or to get a direction. And if you are stationary for more than 30 seconds, it automatically tickets the car for being in a no parking zone without, or a parking area without a parking ticket. It's very aggressive revenue garnering using technology. There are other areas where small towns in the south and midwest of the U.S. that they target traffic going through. It's a bit, that's how the police force is supported. This new bill, if we do it right, should result in lower infractions, fewer fatalities, and a lot more revenue to the government. But there's a rub. It's only effective when enforced, and enforcement demands resources, something that is not in unlimited supply. Efficient traffic management is not going to happen without a cost to the motorist, whether it is in fees or fines. And cities around the world now look to these two as sources of revenue to assist in mitigating congestion. Congestion leads me into another subject area where cities like London, Milan, Singapore, Stockholm charge a fee for entering certain parts of the city. You haven't done anything wrong, but you want to go into a highly congested area, and you've got to pay. Now, London is £11.5 per day to enter city center of London. If you enter without prepaying, you're caught because everything goes in technology, the camera catches you, and you're issued the ticket automatically. The fine is, depending on the size of the vehicle, is 120 to 160 pounds per infraction. But it is an effective part of traffic management. Now, New York proposed it. It did not go through for political reasons. It's an election year. They estimated that they would raise $1.6 billion per year by having a congestion fee of about $10 per motor vehicle. They have delayed the decision, and I was reading in the New York Times on Wednesday that the delay, New York had 13,000 yellow cabs. The Uber effect has now created where there are 40,000 Uber available in New York City. It has driven the price of a yellow cab medallion from $1 million per medallion to under 175,000 and falling. It just shows you what technology can do. However, there's a downside. Public transportation, city buses, are now moving at a speed of only 6.5 miles per hour in Manhattan because of these 40,000 cars moving around in a circle, awaiting on their app to be called for a pickup. There is now talk of finding a way to cap it. What I'd like to propose, with all of this new money that Senator Hill is speaking, that Minister Clark is awaiting, that a significant portion of this extra revenue to be earned from the imposition of these very punitive fines will be put into a special fund to be utilized for improvements to our road network, to ease congestion, to improve safety, to improve public transportation, for public education, to improve policing, and introduce technology, bike lanes, parking facilities in urban areas. This way, they will be a little bit more acceptable. Let me touch on last major subject, sir. I'm coming to an end. Insurance. In other destinations, failure to present proof of insurance result in a fine plus demerit points. This bill has a fine but no demerit points. I would like the leader to give us a reason for the disparity. The second part of it is that the bill imposes a fine for the failure to show proof of insurance, but it doesn't have any additional fine for producing a fraudulent or a bogus insurance policy. It's a double whammy. That man is worse than the man that don't have a policy. The second handout, so in the United Kingdom, those caught driving without insurance face at least 6 demerit points. And a £300 fixed penalty or a substantial fine if they go to the courts. The Central Motorway Police Group, in a quotation, said, "Driving an uninsured vehicle is a criminal offense, and the public quite rightly expect us to enforce the legislation." No, man. No. One to the leader here. One there. One. Senator Hill is not a leader. Yes, is a criminal offense, and the public quite rightly expects us to enforce the legislation. We're also trying to educate the public around the risks and consequences they face of not being insured. We want to get across a clear message that not being insured to drive is unacceptable, illegal and unfair on those who properly insure their vehicles. This is what happens also in the United Kingdom, orderly, that Minister, you're asking, I was mentioning to you about the seizure of motor vehicles. I've been able to locate sections of their legislation that points out how a constable should act, and I would like to share it with you. 1, 2, 3, and 1 to the clock. Now, I mentioned earlier that 30 to 50% of the motor vehicles have no insurance. But the majority of our vehicles, the others, are grossly underinsured. Even among us as legislators in here, if you take that you have a policy for your car, and it's a $4 million policy. What it is basically saying is that it covers bodily injury of $1.5 million. Bodily injury for any one person. Bodily injury aggregate for $4 million. And third-party property damage of $1.5 million. I understand, for example, that Senator Reid's motor car was a $10 million motor car. So, Senator Gale, if you ran into his motor car, you would have to go into your pocket because the insurance don't cover it. Part of the responsibility we have as legislators is to educate people on this glaring disparity between what they're carrying as insurance and what today's new motor vehicle cost. Our judges in our courts are also, for personal injury, handing down claims $30, $40, $50 million. The insurance company is going to very quickly write this check and have you sign it, moving away from any further liability. So even the little you have is going to be taken away from you. It's a very critical thing that we start to educate people about, both the little, the middle, and the big. I was very reassured recently when the Insurance Association of Jamaica, in a release, said that they are undertaking the final phase of testing of an insured vehicle information system, which they call IVIS, which will allow motorists and other persons involved in accidents to determine whether or not the vehicle that they are in is insured. They have issued a web page that you can go on to and that you can check for yourself. What we should do, Madam Minister, is also additionally allow the Island Traffic Authority to share ticket and accident information with the Insurance Association of Jamaica. This will allow the insurers to determine who are the real risk within the society. That man who had 1,000 tickets, nobody would want to insure him. That's where we have got to go. Mr. President, road furniture has been brought into this legislation for the first time. I can tell you a lot about the damage to road furniture. Senator Sinclair is there. I want to give you a copy, Minister, of what happens in Florida. They list the estimated replacement price for every, and a description of what everything out there as road furniture is. They have a price to it. So it assists the investigating officer to write up that, yes, the Ford pickup was hit in the front right-hand side, but also what items of road furniture were damaged by the red motor car license, so and so, so and so. It assists then in identifying who we should make the claim against. I will send that to you in a minute. The school zones, construction site, silent zone, all of these things now come in for very heavy fines, correctly so. Senator Arthur Williams, sitting here the last time the bill came up, made a very valid point which I want to restate. How many schools, Minister Reid, do you have in Jamaica? 971. So how many is that? Over 2,000. All of these have got to be marked as school. You're approaching school zone. You have entered school zone. It's now 15 miles per hour. You're leaving school zone, whatnot. It's going to cost a lot of money. It's one of the reasons why the ITA has to be properly funded. Now, Senator Williams' point was, you can't be prosecuting people in these school zones driving through at midnight. There's no school in session. So the school zones have to have the days and the time. Have to be very specific. There's some other areas, Madam, Mr. President, Madam Leader, but I'm going to take them in committee with you. I wish to thank you for your patience, allowing me this opportunity to deal with that. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Senator Slowly.
Mr. President. Senator
Gale.
It's ironic, Mr. President, that every time we have this debate on the Road Traffic Act, it's either I speak after Senator Slowly or Senator Slowly speaks after me. Yes, because there has been, Mr. President, many interventions in this Road Traffic Act. There was a motion by Senator Imani Duncan Price. There was a joint select committee. There was a debate on the bill, and there would have been numerous amendments. So this bill right now would be going through 3 ministers. Minister Davis, Minister Henry, Minister, and maybe more. It started before. Mr. President, the objective of this bill is to make provisions for the Island Traffic Authority for the regulation and control of traffic on our roads, for the Island Traffic Authority to delegate its functions, for broadening the role of the Road Traffic Appeal Tribunal, the reclassification of motor vehicle and other forms of vehicles, new classes of driver's license, attaining conditions to the grant of permits and driver's license, and the transportation of dangerous and hazardous substances, and many other provisions outlined in its intent. Mr. President, I have one objective: that when we all use the road, we are safe and secured. That's my objective. Mr. President, in recent years, there has been a persistent tendency to put a lot of emphasis for cause of accidents on errors and offenses committed by road users, with the main focus being on increasing sanctions and deterrence as a means of increased road users' awareness. Although, sir, these activities should not be dismissed because they have yielded positive results, it should be noted that traffic is the continuous interaction of what I consider 3 fundamental: the road user's behavior, the infrastructure that supports safety, and the vehicle safety. Mr. President, there are certain fundamental factors, that continue to create the level of carnage on our roads that we must seek to address. The first one is that the vulnerable road users' behavior in traffic, the pedestrians, the cyclists, the motorcyclists, they suffer from particular vulnerabilities in today's traffic system. The second one is that failure, continuous failure, to comply with the legislations and the road code. And it makes an important contribution to the frequency and severity of fatal crashes. And the third one, sir, is that aggressive behavior by motorists. That wanton aggressive behavior. that is common on our roads. Illegal overtaking, running red lights, use of horns in silent zone, stopping anywhere you feel like, making lanes where no lanes are designated, using even filter lane as a major thoroughfare. Mr. President, this type of behavior on our roads needs to stop. And I've been looking at the figures for traffic deaths between 2001 and 2014, courtesy of the Road Safety Unit in the Ministry of Transport. And it's really alarming how these figures fluctuate over the period. But only once dipped below 300 during those 13 years, and that was in 2012. There was one year in 2002 when it actually climbed over 400 and ended up at 408 for that year. In fact, sir, the Road Safety Unit observed that Jamaica has been experiencing a fluctuation in road fatalities over the 14 years, with year 2012 being the only one with the death toll under 300 casualties, whilst 2002 was the only year with casualties exceeding 400 in the calendar year. Mr. President, the fluctuation of casualties over the past 14 years have been equated to Jamaica having an average of 341 traffic fatalities per year, with 80% of the deaths being male, which equates to approximately 273 males dying over traffic accidents per year. And that is what the unit had reported. In 2015, sir, at one stage, the statistics reveal that in the first 292 days of that year, there were 296 deaths on our road. There was a total of 320 road fatalities for 2017, down from 361 in 2016. And thanks to the hard work and the high level of collaboration between the Police Traffic Division, the Motorized Patrol, and the Island Traffic Authority, that has reduced. Mr. President, it is hoped and anticipated that the passing of this legislation will reduce that level of road fatalities. Mr. President, also as part of the clampdown for 2017, a total of 500 tickets were issued for the year for various traffic violations. So a total of 63,000 more tickets were issued in 2017 than the previous year.